It seems that lately the internet just can't get enough of Jorbson and his constant need to be the biggest and wrongest weirdo in the room. Perhaps you've seen clips of him randomly crying, which we will get to. Or that time where he tweeted that a plus-size model was, quote, not beautiful, before getting mocked so hard he claimed to quit Twitter because of bullies, even though he's the one who decided to tweet totally unprompted about this woman who did nothing to him, or apparently for him. His whole point was that Sports Illustrated was trying to push a false idea of beauty, which is a subjective concept that changes throughout culture and history. And in response, he was like, science is on my side. Look at this study about babies' attraction to symmetrical faces, which is not about a person's weight or like whether or not it's possible to be attracted to thick women. So, weird study to post to make a bad point, Dr. Peterson. Oh, and by quit Twitter, I of course mean he, just kept tweeting, like, constantly, weighing in on the jerk-off to ability of various women like a true intellectual, before posting a transphobic statement about Elliot Page that violated Twitter's rules against dead-naming trans people, and it got him suspended unless he deletes the tweet in question. Jordan then saw this extremely common and deserved social media punishment as his own personal William Wallace moment, and so instead of just being, an adult and deleting the tweet, he instead put out a 15-minute video on this harrowing attack on his freedom to be a bigot on a social media platform.
Hello, everyone. A few days ago, I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front. In response to the decision of an actor named Elliot Page. I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory, and am probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what has been made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that. And hopefully it will not come to that, although who the hell knows in these increasingly strange days.
Hey man, just delete the tweet! It's super not hard, just a few buttons at most. You don't have to set up 2 cameras and deliver some kind of ransom video from the catacombs of your culture warrior chateau like you're Vincent fucking Price. Now, we don't have to dwell on this hilarious and embarrassing video, except to say that it's really hilarious and embarrassing. What do you mean, this impossible naming style? Call him Elliot. That's his name. It's easy. You literally did it just then and are purposefully doing it awkwardly because you just don't want to. Why pretend it's hard or confusing? Aren't you supposed to be a smart man? Just say you don't want to. Jordan goes on to break down his question. Remember when pride was a sin in probably the least self-aware way humanly possible.
I don't regard pride as a virtue. It has been classically regarded as a sin. I don't see that sexual orientation or sexual desire of any sort is something to celebrate or to take pride in. And so what I said was merely a fact. Now, it's possible that I hurt someone's feelings because I pointed out that pride goes before, for example, a fall.
That's right, libs. Jordan was just stating a fact and doesn't care if your feelings get hurt. That fact, of course, being that he believes that pride is a sin according to the Bible. His, personal feeling based on a religious text, otherwise known as a fact, apparently. Also, he can't seem to acknowledge that gay and trans people have been consistently shamed and oppressed for, ever. So maybe there's a reason they're pushing to be out and proud now. Also, here he is proudly announcing a speaking engagement. Checkmate, Jordan. Video over. Anyway, Jordan and his defenders seem to bounce back and forth between claiming this is actually about free speech and then spewing some purposefully anti-trans nonsense in the same breath. Curious. Let's go ahead and skip to where this video heads.
And finally, with regard to the final phrase, criminal physician, I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot / was legal. So, was it criminal or not? Were the operations undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiments legal? Yes, under the laws of the time. But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer.
Ah, geez, thanks for leaving the question up to me, Geordie, because I do have an answer. You see, back in the early 1900s, a physician named Magnus Hirschfeld opened up a clinic called the Institute for Sexual Research that in 1930 performed the first modern gender affirmation surgery in the world. The purpose of that clinic was to create a level of dignity other clinics lacked when studying LGBTQ subjects. It was extremely ahead of its time and made breakthroughs that would be forgotten for decades to come, breakthroughs that would help normalize trans people in society. There was a massive library covering sexuality in general, but of course had a lot of work on transition surgery as well. Anywho, the Nazis burned it to the fucking ground. As in, that library was one of the first and largest book burnings once Hitler rose to power. And I guess my answer to your question, Jordan, is that it's pretty up that you would try to compare gender affirmation surgery to the motherfucking Nazis that tried to eradicate trans people from the planet. Not to mention that your criminal doctor's claim is pretty ironic, considering that you had to move to Russia to be put in a medically induced coma for an addiction problem because you couldn't legally have it done in the Americas. Anyway, we'll get back to more Nazi stuff and coma shit a little later. You like Nazis, right? It'll be like Indiana Jones. But spoilers, it's just Jordan Peterson saying Nazi stuff. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Here's the evergreen end plate to ask you to like and subscribe. It's any day of the year where you are.